with us through that, and we are now back to get all this roster talk underway. So if you guys haven't been paying attention to the Counter-Strike news since the year ended and all these roster changes, you're about to bloody hear a lot of stuff, because I don't think a day has gone by where there hasn't been a rumor, where there hasn't been an announcement, where there hasn't been some form of a murmuring about a movement in and we're talking about a lot of teams here within the top 20. There is a lot of moving and shaking going on right now. So let's kick her off with one of the big ones. It's Liquid adding Fallen, and it's FURIA adding Junior. So just for those people who don't know what gaps they were filling, obviously Fallen was replacing Twists, who announced after the Global Challenge that he wasn't part of the team anymore. And FURIA had seemingly had a mutual parting of the ways with Henny, and allowed him to follow his dreams to play with his brother.
Bad call.
Yeah, Jesus, Joseph. We're going to use our lovely yay or nay buttons, guys. So
let's go.
What we want to do, if you guys we haven't done this in a while. So basically these buttons, we're gonna click them. They're gonna pop up. You're gonna see who thinks what. I have to frame a good question here. I'm kind of stalling.
Do we also get the chat yeah or nay, or is that like a separate thing?
I think that was like he has to set that up. We won't put that on Luke. He's got to fucking click a million things to make that one work. We'll just do us. Okay, so let's break this down into the roster moves first, and then we'll talk about which move was better. Okay, let's start with this one. Liquid's addition of Fallen, good or bad? Yay or nay? Oh dear.
I'm going for an A.
Okay, Striker went for he went. All right, Striker, you got the floor. What? Give us your reason for yay in it.
I was mega on the fence. I was mega on the fence last time, and I'm still there. It's just like, in general, is this gonna make Liquid better, or is it gonna make them worse? It's not. I don't think it's gonna make them significantly worse. I think they didn't end. I mean, obviously, apart from the Global Challenge, they didn't end the year particularly well. 2020 didn't go particularly well for them. I feel like this move is not gonna make them any significantly worse. I think they're just going to be okay with it. Is it going to make them like a world beating team? That's obviously up to time, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I just want the A just because I don't think it's actually going to make them worse. I think they're going to be okay.
I don't think.
If you would like to now present your side of the argument.
But how is it like his argument doesn't even make sense? Like, he's yaying it because they're not going to be worse. Bro, yeah. This is not like this is not.
The thing is, I don't see it just like going to
shit, fucking right? Liquid. This is Liquid making a roster move. They're removing Twists, like amazing player, top 20 player.
Okay, he wasn't playing fantastic towards the end.
Last year.
He was pretty rough towards the end of the year.
But like potential. What is Fallen last year? He wasn't much better than that. So, like I don't get. I think even using what you explained, it's an A for me.
Right. I think it's just in terms of roles, it's just going to be a much better fit than before. And that's the biggest part, probably. So it's just about whether Fallen is actually going to be able to put in the right amount of time and stuff like that, which is just a question mark, right?
Yeah. And this is, in my opinion, just hit the bloody nail on the head. It's the amount of time. And I don't mean time of, is he going to play the hours? Because he's going to be with the team and he's going to have to play the hours. My question is his focus going to be on the team and the game? And I think that as somebody who was previously a competitor, it is, you can lose your competitive drive, right? You definitely can. You need to somehow reignite that fire to get it back. And I think that for Fallen, the period of limbo that he had, where they went from this growth from just a grassroots team who needed the help of Flusher, and I'm pretty sure Gomez and us as Vox Eminor gave some money as well back in the day to get those Brazilians to the early majors, to then becoming one of the absolute best teams to ever do it, being, the godfather of Brazilian CS and all this stuff. And then throughout that meteoric rise to popularity, building his business, having all of that stuff happening. It's very easy to get distracted, right? It's very easy to have your attention drawn elsewhere. And my question is Fallen joining this team going to have his focus back? Because he needs to make sure that if he's going to be he's an aging player now. He has to contribute in modern day CS, right? It can't be, you can't play the same Counter-Strike they were doing for the last couple of years because it didn't work. We all know how flat the MIBR project was. We know that all the different players they tried having KNG in game lead, tried Fallen not AWPing. What I'm hoping is that Fallen refines the fire and the passion to be the same guy we all remember from when they were the best. And that is the only way that this could be spun as a positive for Liquid if he does. But the proof in the pudding that we have right now that's not the case.
Right.
He hasn't been playing good Counter-Strike. His teams have been playing off meta CS that doesn't work. Double AWPs on Inferno, just getting constantly beaten, and like all of the signs point to this right now could be the implosion of Liquid, because the parts are just going to slowly start disintegrating, right? If people aren't happy there, and I think that risk going. We don't know the full story behind that. We never will know the full story behind that, but that's obviously a decision that was made. They're replacing him with an AWPer. Well, they had Stewie and Naf kind of doing the AWPing. That was terrible. They had Stewie doing the in-game leading. That was okay. But they need to get, with this move, enough out of Fallen and more out of Stew, right? Grim impressed me, all things considered. Elige always impressed me, and Naf's awesome as well. It's those two parts, Stewie and Fallen, who are the ones who have the dynamic from when Stewie was on MIBR with Tarek and co, that didn't work very well then, right? I really want to see this team make sure that it's not just Fallen coming in and calling the way that he wants to call. I want to make sure that it's a brain trust of the big brains, of players like Elige, who definitely understand the current meta and how to play around and be a fantastic player and having influence on their approach to the game. Otherwise, they need to prove it, because there's so much to learn from this one here. From what I said, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in, like, how I see this team potentially working. Like, the best case scenario is kind of similar to Heroic with Cadian. Like, when you look at Cadian across the year, like, his rating is like 106, 108 or something like that. But then you see him against the best teams in the finals, etc. That's where he actually performed the best. And maybe that is what Fallen can bring to Liquid as well. Like, I don't expect them to be like a superstar opera anymore and to like post 120 ratings across the year, right?
It's true.
But he can plug into these like high pressure situations with his like experience, and with that bring them like across the line. Maybe that's how we can see this Liquid being good.
I mean, in terms of just reigniting the passion, I feel like this is the kind of a move that can definitely do that, just because he's going to have a lot of work on his hands to kind of figure out how to make this work. And he's obviously going to have better players than he had before to work with now. Like, that's pretty undeniable, like that the Liquid players individually were on a much higher level than MIBR in the at least in the last few years, right? So I think this is something that can definitely help with that.
Sure. And I think if we take all of that extra sauce that I squirted on top of that, and you look at it from like a black and white decision, what did Liquid need? Primary AWPer. What did Liquid need? Maybe a more experienced in-game leader. Well, Fallen fits both of those bills.
Yeah.
They still have the fantastic rifling power and second AWPing potential in like Naf, if they want him to do that. Same with Stewie, map dependent, so that gives them flexibility. Elige and Grim, fantastic, riflers to be solid with. Stewie's going to be running and giving up his life for Fallen in a lot. Like, so if we look at the nuances of the game, I think things there are good. And also, I know Jason, I know Moses, right? Like, if there's any bullshit going on, he's not going to allow that. So with Jason as the rudder, right? If he can make sure he keeps control and points the direction of these guys so that they don't get stuck in the mud with things that maybe have hindered in the past, then the potential is there. It's just, I can't sit here as somebody who's not in the pracs, not there with the deals, not there sitting when they're having the meetings of, we're going to add you. This is how. I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't seen them play yet. So I need to wait until I see them play before I can put any stock in it. But there's one thing I would say is, just if I'm Liquid, I would have put like a clause in Fallen's contract. I would have said, Fallen, you can't fucking tweet anymore, mate. Like, you can retweet stuff. You just can't tweet anything. Like, the thing the other day with like Lurpus with the talking about NDAs and stuff, I'm like, oh my god, like, what do you do? Like, this is so, like, Tommy don't give a fuck. Like, he's the guy tweeting about Tesla every day. You think he gives a fuck? Like, he'll push things as far, and he'll make life as difficult as possible. I'm like, we've already had enough PR nightmares from MIBR this year. Can we not rehash 2020? Can everybody just calm the fuck down? So that's where I'll leave it. And let's talk about the other Brazilian team, because we could be stuck on this one for fucking years. This is to do with FURIA adding Junior. So the circumstances behind this one, Henny wanted to go play with his brother, so FURIA were left with not too many options. Also, COVID right now must be difficult to get visas and get people out of Brazil as newer players. Junior was quite the handy AWPer in North America on Triumph, and they've decided to sign and add him. And this was something that was rumored late last year, right? I think it was November or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Before like the last events, like end of November, probably before I Am Global Challenge and Blast Finals.
So I want people to keep that in mind when you think about the last few tournaments you saw FURIA play. If Henny had already made his decision and said, I don't want to play with these guys, I want to go play with my brother, then that's like a lot of the hard work and drive that they would have had leading up to that point kind of gets sucked out of the room. And let's frame this. Let's do the yay or nay. Do we think this, let's frame it this way. Do we think that Junior is a good replacement for Henny? Okay.
I don't know. You have to tell me what other people are doing, because I don't have the stream open.
Okay, so it was me who went for nay, and Professeur went for yay. So let me tell you why I don't think it was. I think Junior's a good player. I just think you're going to throw him in a team where we know they speak English because we've done interviews with these guys before. Their English is definitely serviceable, and they have enough English to do Counter-Strike, and they play within the region in the pugs and shit, so they're speaking English. But I think that the problem is Henny was such an explosive player in what he could do in the mid to late rounds with that AWP. It's almost going to be impossible for them to be able to replicate that. And I thought in certain situations in 2020, it's not that they were relying on him, but he bailed them out of a lot of like bad rounds or a lot of rounds where he won like a clutch or had a huge impact. So the reason I say nay is because if FURIA try to replicate what they had with Henny with Junior, I think it's going to be very hard. I want to be wrong, but I think it's going to be very hard to be able to convert that in the short term with the language barrier, because I'm sure with the way that Art approaches the game, there's a lot of nuance in his strategies and his aggressive moves. There has to be. So I'm hoping that those details don't get lost, but that's why I'm on the nay. Now, Striker, you said yay first. Do you want to jump in here why you think it's a good replacement?
I generally don't think they're going to approach the game the same way with Junior as they would have with Henny, just because they are not stylistically the same players. Henny was quite a very, very passive AWPer. He wasn't the kind of AWPer who would just go out looking for opening kills. They had Art for a vast majority of that, basically, and Henny was just kind of like the angle holding guy, right? And then just kind of went explosives as you were saying in the late rounds. I think I haven't seen Junior like a lot, but from what I've seen from him, and even statistically when I was looking into him, he definitely seems like more of the aggressive type that will look into getting opening kills early into the rounds and stuff like that. So I feel like they're going to approach it a little bit differently, where Art, not that he's going to take a step back. I think he's still going to be crazy as he has been, but maybe it's not going to be all the responsibility on him, and Junior is going to help out with that aspect of the game. So I think in general, it's just going to make FURIA a little bit more balanced and not as reliant on what Art is doing for them. And then I do see that helping them in the long run. Okay. Obviously, the other side of the coin is the communication thing, which, as far as I know, Junior doesn't speak Portuguese, and the plan is for them to speak English. And you never know how that's going to go. Like people react differently to these situations, so it's kind of hard to tell there. It's definitely a concern, but I don't know if it's going to be a big problem or not. We're going to have to see.
You got anything you want to add to that, Prof?
Yeah, I mean, like my yay was like super weak. Like he's a good player, obviously. Like he has shown potential to go to a better team. From that perspective, it's like, and how you framed the question, I went for a yay. But obviously there are a lot of issues that could prop up there. Communication being the number one thing, and I really don't like them changing from Portuguese, Brazilian to English. I don't think that's going to be good. I don't think it really makes sense in the long run. We see that there are other talented Brazilian players in the scene.
Yep.
So it's not like they don't have options, especially because Art also can op, and so they can maybe find a hybrid. Maybe they can find a full-on full-time op. There are a lot of options for them. From that side, I don't like it. I just like it because what were the other options for him, right? So he's going to get more experience, and who knows where he ends up next.
Yeah.
In a way, it almost seemed like these two teams made like the inverse signings.
Yeah.
It really feels like Liquid maybe should have gotten him, and then fall into FURIA with all of the history is kind of weird, but at the same time, maybe it would make sense. Who knows?
Sure.
It's the way Fallen could start playing with the players that he wanted for the last 3 years, you know? Because there might be attempts of getting like Yuri and then Caserado, and then I don't know if they were ever talking about somebody else. But obviously those two were a big target for them, and they never could get them. And I mean, who would blame them in the last year, especially like who would join MIBR in the last 2 years over staying in FURIA, you know?
Sure.
So I guess that makes sense from Fawn's perspective, you know, to start playing with him.
And one of the other things that I think that starts to crop up in my mind is FURIA have been vocal about wanting a sixth. I think they said that they were going to announce the sixth today. So the thing is, that sixth, you don't want an AWPer to be the sixth man to rotate in and out with Junior, right? Because Art already AWPs as well. So you kind of want a rifler, which means that if you want to sub out Junior, you're going to have a rifler come in, which means Art is going to do all the AWPing. Maybe Caserado will pick it up if they need it, but then Art's playstyle might have to change a little bit.
I think that's.
I don't know.
I just feel like I don't know if they're getting a Brazilian player. Who they're getting, I have no idea. Hopefully we're going to learn as the show goes, and we'll see about that. But if not, I don't think they're ever going to replace Junior just because of the communication thing. Because it would be really fucking weird if they went from, if it's a Brazilian player I'm talking about, by the way. So it would be really fucking weird if they went from, you know, playing with Junior, speaking in English in one series, and then going back to Portuguese in like the next series or next tournament or whatever.
In the next map in the same series.
Yeah, exactly. if they go like the Navi Astralis Vitality route, you know, switching out players between maps, then it would be even more confusing. So I feel like I would be surprised if that's what their plan was. I feel like it would be more for somebody like Vinny or whatever, thinking about whether there's like an improvement there or something like that.
I just saw someone saying, chat naming more English-speaking players to Brazilian team, like Elige the FURIA. That's the play, because he does actually like speak some Portuguese.
Yeah,
so that would be interesting.
That would be. I thought it would have been a move at some point, but maybe in the future. Lee just still got a lot of Counter-Strike ahead of him. You never know. It's a crossover.
Now he has Fallen to practice with. So.
That's true as well. Yeah, he can translate anything that gets lost in translate. Jesus, there's been a lot of Brazilians through Liquid, right? Steel was there, Taka was there,
yeah.
Bolton was there. They all played together.
As the coach.
They were all together at one point. Well, not all together. Yeah, you know what I mean. They're all connected somehow. Anyway, let's keep it moving.